The coordination chamber shook as more swarm drones poured in from every entrance. Carter, Jones, and Davis formed a defensive circle around Garcia as he worked on the disruption device. Zilith stood nearby, translating the strange symbols on the central brain structure. "How much longer?" Carter shouted over the sound of gunfire. Her weapon fired steadily, dropping drone after drone. 2 minutes, Garcia replied, his hands moving quickly over the device's controls. "The connections are more complex than we thought." Jones tossed his last explosive at a large group of approaching drones. The blast scattered them, but more kept coming. "We don't have 2 minutes. Dr. Davis suddenly grabbed Zilith's arm. "Ambassador, look at this." She pointed to her scanner. "The swarm's neural pathways. They're not what we expected. They don't just communicate. They share consciousness." Zilith stared at the data. "You mean they're not just a hive mind? They're a single entity spread across billions of bodies." "Exactly." Davis looked up at the pulsing central brain. "If we destroy this, we won't just disable them. We'll kill an entire species." Carter fired another burst at the approaching drones. "That's the point, isn't it? They're killing entire planets." Davis shook her head. "No, you don't understand. My readings show something else. The swarm doesn't see itself as attacking. It's expanding, like cells multiplying. It may not even understand that other life forms are conscious." Garcia looked up from his work. "Are you saying we shouldn't activate the device?" A drone broke through their defensive line. It grabbed Jones before anyone could react. Carter shot it, but Jones was badly wounded. He fell to the floor, clutching his side. "Got any better ideas?" Carter asked as she dragged Jones back to safety. "Because we're about to be overrun." Davis looked at her scanner again, then at the device. "Garcia, can you modify the disruptor? Instead of destroying the neural network, could we alter it?" Garcia thought for a moment. "Maybe. What do you have in mind?" "If the swarm doesn't recognize other species as conscious beings, maybe we can change that. Make it aware of what it's doing." The chamber shook again. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing several drones. More poured in to replace them. "Do it fast," Carter ordered as she reloaded her weapon. Garcia and Davis worked frantically, rewiring the disruption device. Zilith helped them interpret the swarm's biological signals. Jones, despite his injury, managed to keep firing at the approaching drones. "Ready," Garcia finally announced. "But someone needs to connect it directly to the central node. The signal won't penetrate otherwise." Carter nodded. "I'll do it." "No," Zilith said firmly. "My body is more resistant to the swarm's toxic environment." "I'll do it." Before anyone could argue, Zilith grabbed the device and ran toward the central brain. Drones converged on her, but Carter and Jones provided covering fire. Zilith reached the pulsing organ and pressed the device against it. A blinding light filled the chamber. The drones froze in place. The entire hub seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the drones began to retreat. The hostile red glow throughout the hub faded, replaced by a softer blue light. "What's happening?" Carter asked as she helped Jones to his feet. Davis checked her scanner. "The neural pattern is changing. The swarm, it's becoming aware. It's recognizing other life forms as conscious beings." The team made their way back to the extraction point. Encountering no resistance, swarm drones simply stood aside as they passed. The silent strike picked them up and departed the hub unchallenged. 3 days later, Ambassador Zilith stood before the Confederation Council. Colonel Carter and her remaining team stood with her. "The swarm has ceased all attacks," Zilith reported. "They've established communication using our frequencies. They want to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Elder Moden looked skeptical. "The swarm." "Yes," Carter said. "It turns out they didn't know we were intelligent. Their natural state is expansion. Once they understood they were killing conscious beings, they stopped." Elder Pax leaned forward. You didn't destroy them as planned. You changed them. That's the human way, Dr. Davis explained. We adapt. We find new solutions. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to make them not an enemy anymore. The council chamber filled with murmurs. The aliens looked at the humans with new understanding and new fear. These humans had done something more frightening than destruction. They had fundamentally changed another species. Perhaps, Elder Modin said slowly, it is time to reconsider humanity's place in the galaxy. Carter smiled slightly. We'd like that, but this time, let's try understanding each other first. The human ship, now named Silent Strike, moved through swarm territory without lights or signals. Its hull had been coated with a special material that absorbed scanner waves instead of reflecting them. Inside, the strike team made final preparations. Colonel Carter checked her weapon one last time. Remember the plan. We get in, place the disruptor, and get out. No heroes. Sergeant Walsh nodded as he arranged his sniper rifle. Lieutenant Jones packed his custom explosives while humming a tune. Dr. Davis studied the latest swarm biological data, looking for any last-minute insights. Engineer Garcia made final adjustments to the disruption device, a complex machine that had taken 3 days to build. Zilith watched them with growing admiration. Humans prepared for battle differently than any Confederation species. They were focused but calm, serious yet occasionally making jokes. It was an odd mixture of discipline and chaos. We're approaching the central structure, the pilot called out. No signs they've detected us yet. Through the view screen, they saw the swarm hub for the first time. It was enormous, a twisted mass of black organic material and metal forming a sphere nearly the size of a small moon. Thousands of smaller swarm ships moved around it like insects around a nest. There's our entry point, Carter pointed to a less defended section. The ship drops us off and retreats to a safe distance. We have 6 hours to complete the mission before extraction. The Silent Strike slipped between patrol formations and approached the hub. A small hatch opened on the side of the human ship. The team put on their spacesuits, designed to mask their life signs. Ready? Carter asked. Everyone nodded. Even Zilith, though her 4 hands trembled slightly. They pushed out into space, using small thrusters on their suits to guide themselves toward an opening in the hub's outer shell. The void was filled with swarm ships, but none seemed to notice the tiny figures moving between them. Once inside, they found themselves in a nightmare landscape. The interior of the hub was a maze of organic corridors that seemed to pulse with life. Strange fluids flowed through transparent tubes. The air, once they were able to breathe it, smelled sickly sweet. This way, Garcia whispered, following the signal on his device. The coordination center should be 2 levels down. They moved quietly through the corridors, encountering few swarm drones. Those they did meet, Walsh silently eliminated with his knife. No guns. The sound would alert others. Too easy, Jones muttered after an hour of steady progress. They should have better security. As if responding to his words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the structure. Red light pulsed along the walls. The organic corridors themselves seemed to contract. They've detected us, Davis said, checking her scanner. Something triggered their awareness. A wave of swarm drones poured into the corridor ahead of them. Unlike the ships, these were roughly humanoid, but with too many limbs and no faces. Just sensory organs clustered where a head should be. Run, Carter ordered. Get to the center. We'll hold them off. The team sprinted down a side passage, pursued by dozens of drones. Walsh took a position at a junction, firing precisely at the approaching swarm. Jones set up small explosives to slow their advance. There's too many, Zilith cried as more appeared from other corridors. Walsh looked at Carter and nodded. Go. Get the device to the center. I'll buy you time. Walsh, no. Carter began. It's simple math, Colonel, Walsh said calmly. 1 life for billions. He handed her his backup weapon. Just make it count. Before anyone could argue, Walsh moved into the open corridor. He fired with incredible precision, dropping drone after drone. As the team reluctantly continued forward, they heard his steady shots echoing behind them. The shots eventually stopped. Garcia checked his device as they ran. Almost there. The coordination center should be just ahead. They burst into a massive chamber. At its center pulsed a giant structure like a heart, connected to countless tubes and tendrils that reached throughout the hub. This was clearly the swarm's central brain. "Set up the disruptor," Carter ordered Garcia. Everyone else, defensive positions. As Garcia worked, the first wave of drones entered the chamber. The real fight was about to begin. The emergency council meeting was the most heated Zilith had ever witnessed. 23 council members attended in person, while others joined through holograms. At the center stood Colonel Carter and General Scott, calmly facing the angry alien representatives. "Absolutely not." Elder Pax slammed her thorny fist on the table. "A direct assault on the swarm's central hub is too dangerous. We would lose too many ships." General Scott's voice remained even. "With respect, Elder, you're already losing ships and planets. The difference is, our plan has a chance of ending this war." On the large display behind them, Carter had mapped out the proposed mission. Human intelligence had identified a massive swarm structure deep within their territory that appeared to be coordinating the hive mind. "We don't need a large fleet," Carter explained. "That would only alert them. We need a small strike team on a fast ship that can penetrate their defenses." Elder Modin shook his head. "Your species always chooses the most violent path. The Confederation has spent thousands of years developing diplomatic solutions." "Diplomacy." Lieutenant Jones interrupted from his position near the wall. "Has anyone tried talking to the swarm? Do they even have a language?" The council chamber fell silent. None of the aliens had an answer. Dr. Davis stepped forward. "From my research, the swarm operates on pure consumption. They expand, adapt, and consume. They don't negotiate because their entire purpose is growth." "Just like humans," muttered a representative from the back. Carter's eyes flashed with anger, but she kept her voice controlled. "We grow, yes, but we also create. The swarm only destroys." A new alarm sounded throughout the chamber. The central display changed to show a real-time feed of another swarm attack. This time they had struck a major Confederation colony world. The images showed thousands of civilian ships trying to escape as swarm vessels picked them off one by one. 2 million people live on that world," Xylith said quietly. The council watched in horror as the evacuation failed. Swarm ships had adapted to the defensive tactics used in the previous battle. They moved differently now, countering the very methods the humans had introduced. "They learn," General Scott said, "just as we do. But they learn as a collective, sharing information instantly across their entire force." Carter looked directly at Elder Modin. "This is why we need to strike at their core. Cut off the head, and the body dies." The death toll from the colony attack continued to rise on the display. The council members grew quiet, their arguments dying away as the reality of their situation became clear. "Show us your plan again," Elder Modin finally said. Carter nodded to Garcia, who brought up detailed schematics. "A single ship, modified with stealth technology. A small team of our best people. We penetrate their defenses here, where our analysis shows a weakness in their patrol patterns." "And then," asked Zudith. "We plant a device at the center of their coordination hub," Garcia explained. "A disruption bomb designed to break their hive-mind connection." Sergeant Walsh spoke up from his corner of the room. "I'll lead the ground team. 6 humans, no more. We move faster that way." The council members exchanged nervous glances. This plan violated every principle of Confederation military doctrine. It was too risky, too direct, too human. A transmission from the colony world cut through their deliberation. The governor's face appeared, backdrop filled with smoke and chaos. "We've lost the orbital defenses," she reported, her voice breaking. "Ground invasion has begun. Please, send help." The transmission cut off abruptly. Elder Moden looked aged beyond his years. "How soon can your team be ready, Colonel Carter?" 24 hours, she replied without hesitation. "I will accompany them," Xylith said suddenly. All eyes turned to her in surprise. Carter frowned. "This isn't a diplomatic mission, Ambassador." "No," Xylith agreed. "But I propose bringing humans into this war. I should see it through." Her 4 hands clenched with determination. "Besides, your team will need someone who understands swarm technology." The council voted quickly this time. The decision was unanimous. "Proceed with the mission," Elder Moden ordered. "May whatever gods exist in this universe protect you all." As they left the chamber, Jones nudged Walsh. "Gods won't protect us," he said with a grim smile. "But human ingenuity might." 2 weeks later, the Central Confederation base buzzed with activity. 5 human ships had arrived, bringing 300 soldiers and specialists. Their arrival caused both excitement and fear among the alien races. General Richard Scott now stood at the center of the command room. Tall and gray-haired, he carried himself with quiet authority. Around him, Confederation military officers watched with nervous eyes as he rearranged their entire defense strategy. "Your ships are too predictable," Scott told the gathered aliens. "You fly in formations the swarm can easily track. You attack from the front. You retreat when damaged. The swarm learns these patterns." Commander Krill frowned. "These are standard military protocols across the galaxy." "That's the problem," Scott replied. "Standard means predictable." On a nearby training field, Lieutenant Jones taught Confederation soldiers how to set traps. His hands moved quickly as he built simple but effective devices from basic materials. Sometimes the oldest tricks work best, Jones told his confused audience. The swarm expects energy weapons and shields. They don't expect a hidden explosive made from mining chemicals. In the laboratory, Dr. Davis worked with alien scientists, studying swarm biology from samples collected during recent battles. "Their communication happens through chemical signals," she explained. "If we can disrupt those signals, we can break their coordination." At the firing range, Sergeant Walsh demonstrated human weapons to amazed onlookers. The projectile guns seemed primitive compared to energy weapons, but they worked in ways the swarm couldn't predict. "No energy signature to detect," Walsh said in his quiet voice. "No pattern to adapt to. Just simple physics." Ambassador Xylith moved between these groups, watching the humans transform the Confederation's approach to war. She found Colonel Carter in a side room, studying maps of swarm territory. "Your people work quickly," Xylith said. Carter nodded without looking up. "Humans adapt fast. It's how we survived on Earth before we reached the stars." "The Council is concerned about your methods," Xylith admitted. "Some of your tactics seem dishonorable to them." Now Carter looked up, her eyes sharp. "Dishonorable. The swarm is consuming entire worlds. There's no honor in losing when extinction is on the line." Before Xylith could respond, alarms sounded throughout the base. A swarm attack force had been detected approaching the system. In the command center, General Scott calmly issued orders. The Confederation officers were surprised by his relaxed demeanor. "Aren't you concerned?" Commander Krill asked. "This is the largest swarm fleet we've seen." Scott smiled slightly. "We've been expecting this. In fact, we've been inviting it." The battle that followed shocked the Confederation observers. Human ships broke formation constantly, moving in ways that seemed random. They shut down engines to drift silently, then powered up suddenly to attack from unexpected angles. They used debris as cover. They transmitted false signals to confuse the swarm. On the ground, Jones' traps disabled smaller swarm vessels that attempted to land. Walsh coordinated sniper teams targeting weak points that Davis research had identified. Engineer Garcia had modified Confederation weapons to emit random energy patterns that the swarm couldn't adapt to. When the battle ended, the swarm had lost over 30 ships. The Confederation forces lost only 3, with minimal casualties. It was the most decisive victory against the swarm in the entire war. In the aftermath, Zilith found Carter watching the recovery operations. "You were right," Zilith said quietly. "Your methods work." Carter's face remained serious. This was just one battle. The swarm will adapt, even to our unpredictability. We need to be more aggressive. What do you suggest? "We've been playing defense," Carter said. "Humans don't win wars by defending. We win by taking the fight to the enemy." She pointed to a spot on the star map. "We need to strike here, at what we believe is their central coordination point." Zilith felt a chill. That's deep in swarm territory. The Council would never approve such a risky mission. Carter's expression hardened. Then they should never have called on humans. The Confederation outpost on Valoran Prime was under attack when the human ship arrived. From the command center, Zilith watched the void swarm vessels surrounding the small moon base. Black ships shaped like giant insects moved in perfect formation. Commander Krill of the Confederation Defense Force looked desperate. "The outpost shields will fail in 2 hours. We have 300 civilians inside who cannot be evacuated." Colonel Carter studied the tactical display. The 5 humans had been silent since their arrival, simply watching and listening. Now they gathered around the battle map. "These swarm ships," Carter said, pointing to the largest vessel. "They move as one. Classic hive mind behavior." "Yes," Krill replied. "They adapt to our attacks quickly. We cannot surprise them." Lieutenant Jones grinned. "Want to bet?" Carter turned to her team. "Simple demonstration. Limited engagement. Show them what humans can do without revealing all our capabilities." The alien commanders looked confused as the humans spoke among themselves in quick, short sentences. They seemed to communicate with minimal words, understanding each other with small gestures and nods. Dr. Davis approached the biological data terminal. "May I?" Without waiting for permission, she began studying the swarm's physical makeup. "Interesting. Their ships are partially organic, almost like extensions of themselves." Sergeant Walsh had not spoken at all. He simply studied the battlefield, his eyes moving from screen to screen. "We'll need a small craft," Carter told Commander Krill. "Something fast, with minimal weapons." "That would be suicide," Krill protested. "The swarm would destroy any small vessel instantly." Carter's face remained calm. "Trust me." 30 minutes later, the humans launched in a small Confederation patrol craft. The aliens watched from the command center, certain they were watching the humans fly to their deaths. "What are they doing?" Zilith asked as the craft took a strange path, moving erratically. On the communication channel, they could hear Jones laughing as if he was enjoying a game. Garcia was calling out technical information. Walsh said nothing at all. The human craft approached the smallest swarm vessel. Instead of firing weapons, they simply flew around it in irregular patterns. The swarm ship began to follow, breaking formation with the others. "I don't understand," Commander Krill said. "They aren't attacking." Zilith watched carefully. "I think they're testing how the swarm reacts." The human craft suddenly accelerated toward the main swarm fleet, with the single swarm ship following. At the last second, the humans veered away. The confused swarm ship crashed into 2 others, causing all 3 to spin out of control. "Interesting," Carter's voice came over the comm. "They can be distracted. Their coordination breaks down under unusual stimuli." For the next hour, the human craft performed maneuvers no Confederation pilot would ever attempt. They flew directly at swarm ships only to swerve away at the last possible moment. They cut engines and drifted, making the swarm think they were disabled. Each time, the swarm responded with increasing confusion. When the human craft returned to the outpost, the swarm fleet had scattered, their perfect formation broken. 3 ships had been destroyed without the humans firing a single shot. The Confederation officers stared in shocked silence as the 5 humans walked back into the command center. "How?" Commander Krill finally asked. How did you defeat 3 swarm ships without weapons? Lieutenant Jones grinned. We didn't fight the way they expected. No one ever taught them about feints and deception. Dr. Davis nodded. Their hive mind is powerful but inflexible. They can't understand irrational behavior. And humans, Carter added, excel at being irrational. Zillith felt a mixture of hope and fear. These humans had accomplished in 1 hour what Confederation forces couldn't do in months of fighting. They had confused an enemy that seemed unbeatable. Will you help us? She asked Carter directly. You've seen what they are now. Carter looked at her team, then back to Zillith. We'll need more humans. A lot more. And we do this our way, with our weapons, our tactics. Commander Krill seemed uncomfortable, but nodded. I will inform the Council immediately. They will agree to your terms. As the others talked, Sergeant Walsh approached Zillith. The quiet human spoke for the first time since arriving. That was just a taste, he said softly. You haven't seen what humans can really do yet. Colonel Amy Carter stared at the mission briefing on her tablet. After 20 years in the United Earth Defense Force, she thought nothing could surprise her anymore. She was wrong. Aliens, she muttered, shaking her head. Actual aliens asking for our help. The door to the briefing room opened. 4 people walked in, her new team. Carter had read their files, but seeing them in person was different. Lieutenant Sammy Jones came in first, grinning like he was at a party instead of a top-secret military assignment. His record showed he could build bombs from almost anything. He once blew up an enemy bunker using only cooking supplies. Colonel. Nice to meet you, Jones said, offering his hand. His cheerful attitude seemed out of place for a demolitions expert. Sergeant Paul Walsh entered next. Tall, thin, with eyes that seemed to see everything. Walsh was the best sniper in the service. He nodded once to Carter but said nothing. Dr. Kate Davis followed, carrying several data tablets. Her background in alien biology made her the only logical choice for the team's science expert. She had studied the limited alien data available to Earth during the isolation years. Colonel Carter, Davis said, I've reviewed the information about these void swarm creatures. Fascinating and terrifying. Last came Chief Engineer Dan Garcia. His hands were stained with machine oil, suggesting he had been working on equipment right up until the meeting. Garcia was known for building custom weapons that worked when they shouldn't. Sorry if I'm late, Garcia said. I was finishing modifications to our gear. Carter gestured for them to sit. You all know why we're here. After 300 years, the Galactic Confederation needs our help. They're losing a war against a species called the Void Swarm. She displayed images of the swarm ships and the destruction they had caused. The room grew quiet. Our mission is simple but difficult. We go to the Confederation outpost nearest to swarm territory. We assess the threat firsthand. Then we decide if humanity should commit to this fight. Why us? Asked Davis. Why a small team? Carter switched her screen. A new image appeared. A strange 4-armed alien with purple skin and large eyes. This is Ambassador Zillith. According to her, the Confederation is both desperate and afraid. They need our help but fear our methods. A small team is less threatening while still showing our capabilities. Walsh spoke for the first time, his voice low. They're right to be afraid. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew the history. The brief war humanity fought before accepting isolation had shown the galaxy why humans were different. Other species fought with rules and patterns. Humans fought to win, using any means necessary. I lost my parents in that war, Carter said quietly. They were on a science vessel studying alien plant life when the fighting started. Wrong place, wrong time. No one spoke. They hadn't known this about their commander. I don't trust these aliens, Carter continued. But I've seen the data on the Void Swarm. If they keep spreading, they'll reach Earth eventually. Better to fight them out there than here. Jones raised his hand like a schoolboy. So we're the test run. Show the aliens what humans can do. Exactly, Carter nodded. Ambassador Zillith will accompany us. We leave in 6 hours on the United Earth ship Dauntless. Garcia leaned forward. What's our equipment situation? Standard gear won't cut it for alien threats. Bring your best toys, Garcia. I want these aliens to see what humans can do with simple tools. As the team filed out to prepare, Ambassador Zillith entered from a side door. She had been listening. Colonel Carter, she said, her 4 hands clasped in a gesture of respect. Thank you for accepting this mission. Carter looked at the alien with guarded eyes. I haven't accepted anything yet, Ambassador. First, we see what we're really up against. Then I decide if it's worth risking human lives for your Confederation. Zillith's large eyes blinked slowly. You are not what I expected. That's the first thing you need to learn about humans, Carter replied. We're never what you expect. Zillith's diplomatic vessel slowed as it approached the edge of the Sol system. She stood at the viewing window, watching the warning beacons flash their red lights in the darkness of space. These ancient devices had kept the galaxy away from humans for 3 centuries. Her navigation officer, a tall Varian with translucent skin, looked nervous. The human defense grid is detecting us. It's more advanced than our records suggested. Zillith wasn't surprised. The Council had suspected humans continued developing technology despite their isolation. Send the diplomatic codes. Let them know we come in peace. As they waited, Zillith thought about what she knew of humans. They had entered galactic society rapidly, just 50 years after discovering faster-than-light travel. Their first meetings with alien races had gone well. Humans showed great curiosity and eagerness to learn. Then came the mishap at Proxima Centauri, a simple cultural misunderstanding between humans and the Drell. Human laughter was interpreted as a death threat in Drell culture. When Drell warriors responded with ritual combat challenges, the humans fought back with shocking intensity. What started as a minor incident sparked a war that lasted 2 years. Human tactics confused the organized Confederation forces. They used deception, fought at night, hid among civilian populations, and showed a willingness to take massive casualties to achieve objectives. They called it asymmetric warfare, a concept alien to most Confederation species. The war ended not with a human defeat but with a mutual agreement. Humans recognized their methods disturbed other species and accepted isolation until cultural compatibility could be achieved. The ship's communication system beeped. A human face appeared on the screen. Pale skin, dark hair, and those strange expressive features that Confederation species found so difficult to read. This is Frank Miller, United Nations representative for extraterrestrial affairs. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself. Zillith moved into view. I am Ambassador Zillith of the Galactic Confederation. We come with an urgent request for humanity. Miller's expression changed slightly. Was that surprise? Suspicion? Human faces were so complex. The Confederation hasn't contacted Earth in 300 years, Ambassador. Why now? We face extinction. A species we call the Void Swarm is consuming worlds across the galaxy. Our weapons and tactics cannot stop them. We need humanity's help. Miller was quiet for several moments. This request will need to go through proper channels. You may dock at our orbital station. No more than 5 representatives may board. 6 hours later, Zillith sat in a plain room with white walls. The station was surprisingly simple compared to the ornate Confederation designs. Frank Miller entered with 3 other humans, 2 males and 1 female, all wearing similar blue uniforms. This is General Laura Simmons, Admiral Pete Gordon, and Defense Secretary John Bell, Miller said. They have authority to hear your request. Zillith activated her data crystal, projecting images of the Void Swarm's destruction. The human officials watched without visible emotion as planets burned and species died. The swarm operates like a hive mind, Zillith explained. They adapt to our weapons within days. They learn from every encounter. We have lost 12 major worlds in 2 months. And you think humans can help? Asked General Simmons. Her voice was flat. controlled. Your species excels at unpredictable warfare. You understand concepts that are foreign to us: deception, psychological tactics, asymmetric response. Secretary Bell leaned forward. You isolated us because our methods frightened you. Now you want those same methods. Yes, Xylith said simply. We do. The humans exchanged glances. Admiral Gordon spoke next. We've maintained our military readiness despite isolation. We always suspected we might need to defend ourselves again someday. Show her, Miller said quietly. General Simmons pressed a button. A new projection appeared. Human ships, weapons, and soldiers, far more advanced than Xylith had imagined. We will bring your request to Earth's United Military Command, Miller said. But understand this. If we agree to help, we will do so our way. The galaxy feared human warfare before. What you see here is the result of 300 years of advancement. Xylith felt a shiver run through her forearms. The Council had feared this, but they had no choice. The swarm was coming. I understand, she said. We are desperate. Miller nodded. Desperation is something humans understand very well. Ambassador Xylith's 4 hands trembled as she straightened her formal robes. The Emergency Council chamber had never felt so cold. 57 representatives from across the Galactic Confederation sat in rising tiers of seats, their faces grim. Many showed signs of grief. Some had lost home planets in the last cycle. The Void Swarm had consumed another major colony yesterday. That made 12 worlds in just 60 rotations. We must face the truth, said Elder Modin, his voice cracking with age and sorrow. Our fleets cannot stop them. The swarm adapts to every weapon, every strategy. They learn, they evolve, and they hunger without end. Xylith moved to the speaking platform. As the youngest ambassador in the Confederation's history, she rarely spoke at full council meetings. But today was different. The Preservation Archives might hold an answer, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I have found records of a species with unique warfare abilities, a species we have kept in isolation for 3 centuries. The chamber erupted in whispers. Elder Pax, representative of the Thorn Collective, rose from her seat. Her thorny exoskeleton rattled with agitation. You speak of humans, Pax said. It wasn't a question. Xylith nodded. I do. The chamber fell silent. Even the mention of humans brought discomfort to most Confederation species. The isolation protocol was established for good reason, said Ambassador Krill of the Methane Alignment. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous. They waged war on each other for most of their history. Their capacity for violence exceeds any rational species. Xylith projected images onto the chamber's central display. Planets turned to ash. Refugee ships overflowing with the displaced. Swarm vessels multiplying across star systems. And yet here we are, she said quietly, facing extinction. The swarm has destroyed our most advanced defense systems. Our greatest minds cannot predict their movements. We need something unpredictable to fight something unpredictable. Elder Modin's skin paled to almost white. You suggest we ask humans for help. The same species that nearly destroyed the Rigel fleet over a simple misunderstanding, who fought 12 Drell warriors to a standstill with nothing but metal blades when their weapons failed. Yes, said Xylith. Those exact humans. The Council records keeper, a small blue-skinned Trellin, raised a tentacle. May I remind the Council that humans agreed to isolation. They were not forced. They recognized their own danger to galactic peace. That was 3 centuries ago, Xylith countered. They may have changed, and even if they haven't, we need their fighting ability, their adaptability. The debate raged for hours. Some council members threatened to withdraw from the Confederation if humans were invited into galactic affairs again. Others wept openly, begging for any solution that might save their remaining populations. In the end, desperation won. The vote was narrow, 29 in favor, 28 opposed. It is decided, said Elder Modin, his voice heavy with doubt. Ambassador Xylith, Since this was your proposal, you will lead the diplomatic mission to Earth. You will explain our situation and request their assistance against the Void Swarm." Zilith bowed in acknowledgement, her heart's racing. The human solar system had been cordoned off with warning beacons, automatic defense systems, and patrol ships for centuries. No Confederation citizen had spoken to a human in generations. "Remember," Elder Pax warned, "if you succeed in recruiting humans, you may save us from the swarm only to unleash something far worse. The old records call humans extinction events with consciousness. They do not know restraint as we understand it." Zilith gathered her data crystals and prepared to depart. As she walked from the chamber, Ambassador Krill caught up to her in the corridor. "You're young, Zilith. You know humans only from historical accounts. I was there during first contact." His methane brother hissed as he leaned closer. "Do you know what terrified us most about humans? Not their weapons or even their violence. It was their smiles." "Smiles?" Zilith asked, confused. "Yes, they bare their teeth when pleased, the same expression other predators make before attacking prey. They smile when they're happy, and sometimes they smile before they kill. Remember that."